Hi everyone, welcome to Digital Experience. This is our iteration retro video. We're going to go over the things that went well and the things to improve on for the last 2 week sprint. Today is Thursday, March 9th. For things that went well, first up is Jess.
Yeah, I just wanted to say welcome to Trevor. We're so stoked to have you here. And personally a little stoked to have some coverage while Carrie and Tina are away. For people who don't know, Tina and I have both separately worked with Trevor in the past too, so we know he's a great designer and a great person, and we're just really happy to have you here.
+1, welcome to the team, Trevor. And also for everyone else on the team, please set up coffee chats with Trevor whenever you get a chance.
It looks like I have the next point just as I take a big bite. I just wanted to call out that I think the product imagery in the home page is really nice. Feels like a breath of fresh air. I'm excited to see more of this throughout the site. I just feel very strongly about that.
Follow up to that, Mike. I'm thanking obviously for getting it up really quick. Kind of threw it on him last minute, and he made it happen pretty quick. So thank you, and for Jess to help QA back forth to get it up as soon as we could.
Yeah, and I'll just add on that this was a great collaboration with our brand partners, and I hope we have more of those going forward. Phil, so you got the next one.
Yeah, +1 to the above too. And Jess, thanks for pushing that forward. I know that was a lot of time and effort on your end. And then also thank you for the work on the guest calculator. I just wanted to share, I think the engineers kind of see the end shiny product, but Jess did a really great job navigating a lot of ambiguity when that request came in. It was we want this vague idea of a thing, and just tested out a bunch of things and worked with our stakeholders, and now we have this great calculator where people can figure out if premium or ultimate is worth it for them. So I'm super excited to see that live soon. So thank you. And then the other shout out that I wanted to do was to Tina and Mateo. Thank you so much for the work on the startups program page. For those of y'all don't know, we had a really tight deadline. We got a request in on a Friday morning to have something done by Tuesday 6 a.m. PST, with Monday being a friends and family day. So it was very chaotic, but Tina and Mateo really put their heads together, got through that very quickly. So thank you so much to the both of you. Barker, you're next.
Yeah, the next one. I just wanted to say great job, John, building our first localized page in the buyer experience repository. Got that German sales page, and that sales form is linked to a German sales funnel in Marketo. It's a different sales form, so super cool. And then also big thanks to Nathan for helping us figure out how to get Fastly and Smartly to play nice there. There's definitely some ambiguity. Okay, we'll move on to the next one, things to improve on. We were supposed to launch a multivariate nav test last week, and we missed the deadline and therefore are not running the test. We had a retrospective issue. There's been lots of activity in it, so thank you everyone for contributing to that. And I wanted to just open the floor for discussion and help us figure out how we can do this better. We haven't historically been very good at releasing A/B tests to production smoothly, and it's something we need to get better at. So, team, how do you think we could do that?
Some of us don't have background as to why that test didn't happen, the full context.
Okay.
Give us a quick summary.
Yeah, so we built the MR. It was released to production. It was broken, didn't work. It wasn't collecting the data for the A/B test, which is the whole point of the A/B test. There seems to be some blank spots for how we verify that these work before releasing to production. And because we missed the deadline and we already had prior commitments, we just had to forego it.
And just to add some context in terms of why we decided to not launch it versus waiting to launch it, the test that we were doing was to test the free trial CTA on the header. So the multivariants were, one was our control one, the second was like an orange red color, and then the third was a gradient with a gleam. And so we were going to launch that test and conclude that test and then go forward and launch the new homepage illustrations with the gradient in the background. And that was kind of like the sequence of order that we wanted to do. And then we committed that up to the execs and our marketing team to say like, hey, like this is our plan and this is when we can expect the homepage illustrations to go live. And so the idea was we gave enough time for that A/B test to run. But then when we got the news that like we weren't collecting the data and we just wouldn't have enough time to run the test to reach statistical significance before we had to put the homepage illustration live, it just didn't make sense anymore. And then the design team, Tina and Jess, y'all have a lot on your plate. I just didn't want to spend more designer time to redesign that A/B test to figure out what can we do now instead of a gradient and a gleam. It just didn't seem worth the designer's effort, because I know both of you have a ton on your plate with other things as well. So that's just like the business context as to why that decision was made.
I was gonna say that I don't know if it could work or if it's just another problem, but maybe having an environment that's similar to production on which we can test out these A/B tests, and then when we are sure that it is working in an environment similar to production, we can then push it to production. Maybe that could be an extra step that we could take for A/B tests.
Probably an unpopular opinion. I think this was a bit of an outlier. Like, I reviewed the MR, I pushed it to production. I've ran a lot of A/B tests and ABC tests. It looked fine. It worked as best as it could in the review app. We're doing all these retros to get to the bottom of it, but we really didn't find the root cause, which I think is just somewhere like there's a clash between maybe the navigation package and the test. I have no idea, but the issue wasn't with how the test was set up, because that's how we've set up tests in the past. And I think we can't really, maybe this is wrong, but I don't think we can have a successful retrospective until we successfully finish the test and get it out and we see, why didn't this work? Yeah, I think everything was fine. This is just such a freak kind of thing. So
I might, jump in. I didn't add my name in the thing. I posted very recently in the retrospective a comment that I think there were two parts. So the technical side of things, like I created the MR and then I had to leave. So Megan was the reviewer and merged it. So I apologize. Obviously there was some misunderstanding of how I implemented the test. So now Megan has written some really great documentation. I think that that's going to go a lot smoother going forward. But like you were saying, Megan, I'm still not quite sure why we weren't seeing the variance that we expected. I understand that there was no click tracking. So yeah, I would love to get the test or a test out similar with 3 variants and see if we did something wrong, like see kind of what happened whenever we're done with homepage hero test. And then the other side of that is, I didn't realize that we had told important people that we were pushing this out that day and that we had other tests, lined up to go forward. So, I certainly would have tried to get that out sooner, but I don't think that allowed for an adequate amount of time for testing and figuring out these bugs. Like Phil said, we just had to shut the test down and move on. So trying to pad that time a little bit more. I get that it was a friends and family day the day before, and then we needed it out the next day. So just a timing issue, but ideally having additional time, padding it for these bugs that are inevitably going to come up. It sounds like with the startup page that we were just talking about, like a similar thing where we just need this out now. And I hope that we can get to a point where we pad our time a little bit better and fix our process a little bit more. But yeah, my apologies for the technical side of things for sure.
I wanted to say that if the values were collected properly, we still didn't solve that point of the variance not displayed. So like even if we had done that correctly, it's like, well, then we would have ran into it anyway. So it's like, in that sense, had we done our due diligence in every way possible, like it still would have failed. So that, I think that, to me, that points to something else outside of our control, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think
Any-
Laura, to your point, like I definitely agree that it was under a tight timeline. My impression was just during our sprint planning, I heard that the date was the next day, so I go based off of that, and I totally respect and understand that. I think the rest of y'all don't have the context that I do, so I think I definitely operate from like a different lens. For me, I think part of the miss is just the communication back. Like if I hear that, hey, something is going to be get done tomorrow, if it doesn't get done the next day, most of the time it's okay. I just need that communicated to me so then I can go and adjust other plans. I'm not as bothered like, oh my God, it didn't go out, and like it's not the end of the world. There's always plan B, C, D, and I'm happy to rearrange. There's certain instances where that's not possible. Obviously, I know the product marketing group gets a lot of that, where there's like events and things like that, where it's like beyond our control and we need to get things out when we need to get them out. But I think I could definitely do a better job of trying to provide some of that context earlier on or in a more public channel. Some of these conversations just happen one-on-one or in different meetings that I'm a part of. So from my end, I'll definitely try to do a better job in communicating those things earlier and often. There's that. But I think the second part of it is also, I think there is a need to have this group be experts in A/B testing. And what that looks like, I'm going to leave to Justin and Lauren for y'all to figure out. But I do think this is something that we're going to flex more and more with our OKRs. This is an area that we want to be really skilled at. And I don't know the technical issues. And like, please do go spend the time to create the environment, do what you need to do to be the experts in this, because we need to be relying heavier and heavier on data. I think Dennis is doing such a great job with his analytics on the Google front, but we need to be able to provide more of that so we can continue to own the metrics that we want to own, which is free trial conversions. And we need to be able to have data to back up the design decisions that we make, and what type of work we want to do. And we do that by saying that we ran XYZ tests and here's the data that we had, and to continue to show that to our leadership team to show that we're able to own our metrics. So A/B, like that's why A/B testing is so important from a technical standpoint. Like, please just do what you can to play with it, create an environment. Like Miguel said, like however Lauren and Justin can help you with that, like please do use the resources available.
Yeah, I think we oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say like Phil's is right. I think there's like this is a we didn't do a lot of tests for a while, so there's like a little bit of rust like coming off, and like make sure we know what we're doing. But Phil's right. Like we should be like thinking about like, can we set up some like tests? If our limitation is that review apps may not work, like we know we have some issue with Google Tag Manager and like certain things not firing here and there because of like a review app. Can we come up with a test that we run that like doesn't really affect the site? Like adding an extra space somewhere, we can make sure the test runs, we can actually see click data and be like, cool, we know how to work it on this page. Can we do an ABC test? Can we do something to the nav that like turns off a hover for one click? No one's gonna know about it. We can test it for an hour or two, make sure we see the data, call it, move on. So then we can like, increase our muscle memory on how to get these tests up and going, and then, like Phil said, be more proficient on having the test run.
That's a good point, Nathan, that maybe we should have on recording. I was going to say, sorry, before I forgot I was going to say something, that I don't know at what point, like I agree that if we're going to be running a lot of experiments, we should be like really, really good at experiments. There was a time in November in Palm Springs when Michael said, we're not doing A/B tests anymore, like forget experiments, it's never happening. I don't know what changed. Now we're suddenly doing experiments again. Like that's like our job now. So I don't know, like whoops, I kind of took the launch darkly and like deleted it from my brain because I didn't know that we'd be doing them anymore, and now here we are. but yeah, I'm not crazy, right? That happened. That did happen. We were like donezo with experiments.
I don't remember that. Maybe I blocked something out. I don't. Lauren or Justin, do you remember? I don't remember that. I fully could just be forgetting though.
I vaguely remember a comment about doing it less.
It was how he started his presentation. It for sure happened. He was like, guess what, team? We're deciding going forward, this is no longer happening. And then something changed. I don't know, but yeah, we'll
That's
get better.
Fair. That's fair. I dropped from my memory at some point, I see. I can get clarity from Michael on that. I think I can see in the context in which he may have said that. I think he was like, there are definitely things that we're gonna just do. But I do think we're also gonna need to test certain things. This test idea came from Michael, so I'm a little confused also. So yeah, I can get clarity on that from him. And also he watches these, so hi, Michael.
I could try and hop in. I'll just vocalize what I wrote in the chat on Zoom. Yeah, that nav repo when we spun it up was never meant to be a long-term solution. It was just so that we could support the existing www repo while also supporting the new buyer experience repo. And so obviously the end goal is to get away from www. And I think this is just another reason why we need to get off that repo, because there's so many things that we're running into, like different versions of slippers that are feeding into the nav repo, that are feeding into the normal buyer experience repo. Like there's so many of these weird oddities, and then trying to run tests, and then all the links, like the view page source. Now we have to do some weird click handling. And I know it's a long shot. Like there's still a blog, there's still a release post, there's tons of stuff on www. And this is like not going to happen this year. But this is just another reason that like this is not the solution. But anyway, just to kind of say that it's a pain to deal with, and I can't imagine trying to do an ABC test on an npm package.
And to speak to Nathan's point, personalizing the nav, making it an npm package makes it really difficult to try to test these things before making them live. Especially if we're going to be adding, I don't know, photos and other account information.
Sounds like we might need to plan for verification on production for those types of nav changes. So like once it hits production doesn't mean the issue's closed yet. Need to go verify it. Might be more fixes there.
I'm wondering if there is a case to, don't quote me on this, but I feel like staging wouldn't be that hard to get back up and running. So if we created like a pipeline job that's manual, that is just like update staging, and then staging gets updated with all the latest prod, and it runs on a GCP bucket with the same configuration and Fastly as the about.gitlab site does. And we could test in there before going live with things like this, things like localization. There's a couple things that we want to test before going to prod that the review apps just don't do a good enough job.
Strong +1 there. I think yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be into our pipeline. It just, even if it's a manual job, just click a button and then boom. But yeah.
I know there's Javi, there's point 2 there that I don't know if you explicitly wanted to talk about.
We talked about it a little, but it's always not fun to see people working overtime and weekends to meet due dates. That's not fun. I think, yeah, I want to respect the time of our fellow team members.
Yes, and not to be the counter person to that, Javi, but I think I will say GitLab's quite flexible, like during the day, and I think you just have to also be focused on like absolutely, like if you worked the weekend and overtime, like please take time off during the week to counterbalance that. But it is just also making sure that we hit our business results. So I think a balance to that one is important.
I think to that point though, like the problem might not even necessarily be people working overtime, but that we're accepting jobs that are like 2-day turnover, and that also kind of sets a bad precedent that like any job can be done in 2 days when that's not really realistic to always do, or everyone just be burnt out all the time.
Yeah, that's fair feedback, Jess. I think this is like a unique circumstance.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that we're well beyond my level at this, but yeah, that's fair point. Fair point.
Any closing thoughts before I finish the recording? Okay. All right. Well, thank you everyone for anyone watching, and we will see you next time.